Lessons in Chemistry and The Big Friendly Giant because I've read them before. Both those books I've read before. Yeah. So I find it hard rereading books. I know Kim feels the same way. I literally finished them today.
Oh, wow.
No way.
Both
fresh.
of them.
I still haven't finished BFG because it's just like I almost don't want to rush through the rereading because I was a little one when I first read it, but now I'm an adult and I just,
So let's start. So let's get you to, Kara, you introduce it and we'll go from there.
All right. Welcome. We are here discussing the BFG by Roald Dahl. And thank you for joining us as we start to unpack what happened in between the pages of this wonderful read. Sarah, Kim, thoughts?
I think we should start with a spoiler alert. What does BFG stand for?
Good one. BFG stands for the Big Friendly Giant.
Oh, how interesting.
Ooh.
Isn't it?
So you're not going to be okay, Kara, at the end of this.
No, I'm not. And I think guys, so this is what's so weird. I can remember the book from when I read it when I was younger, and having seen the movie, I don't remember the ending. And so part of me actually was like, for all seriousness, I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm not wanting to remember the ending.
No, I think you'll be okay with that. I think that you're not going to like that. I don't like it.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into that. Tell me all the reasons why.
Well, listen, I was thinking today, because I obviously don't want to be like mean to someone because they picked a book I don't like. Right? But I was trying to think about like, why does she like it? And then I guessed that you had a positive childhood memory attached to it because you've read it as a child.
I did. And then I was also obsessed with the idea of the orphan. That was a long-standing theme for a lot of my youth, just playing around and toying around with that idea of, I don't even know if I was doing it, like if I was aware of what I was doing at the time, but I would always, upon reflection, gravitate towards stories and narratives that were around an orphan. And I just think that was me trying to make sense of how I was perceiving my world at the time.
Now I'm like, did you wish you were adopted? Did you think you were adopted? Did you?
Absolutely.
You were like, my gosh, here. I must
all
be
I
adopted.
did was invent storylines, about how I actually was adopted. I remember one phase of my childhood, guys, this is so weird. I was 1000% convinced my parents were actually aliens and they had human suits that they zipped up, like convinced of it. Like I was like,
what behaviors
I'm pretty sure
sealed the deal for you? Like what were they doing that made you be like, these guys aren't from this planet?
Oh yeah. I actually think it was just being an impressionable young person who spent a lot of time disassociating and imagining and would consume materials that were past my level of maturity. So the movie Cocoon that came out in the 80s.
Oh my God, I love that movie. I loved it.
It made a lasting impression on me. And I wonder if that's what fed this invented story of it's a possibility. So we're back to possibilities, Kim. The possibility. I don't even think that it was necessarily anything my parents were doing. I think because of the Cocoon storyline, it all of a sudden became an option. Wow, I don't feel like I relate to my parents. Therefore, the only logical solution
is that they're wearing zip-up human suits.
They were in zip-up human suits, and it only happened at nighttime. I was convinced this zipping and unzipping happened in evenings. Oh my God, I'm such a weirdo.
No, listen, I have considered the fact that my mom secretly did mushrooms because that's how crazy she is. That I'm like, I mean,
really?
You must be tripping for real. The way that she talks about things sometimes, I'm like, mushrooms like regularly? Like, are you like low dosing or like... Just when you said that, when you're like the possibilities and we didn't relate or whatever, just made me have a flashback to be like, I seriously considered like, wouldn't that be wild if when I'm, whatever age, she finally reveals to me that half the time we were talking
she
about
invented
stuff, she was
the
on
microdosing.
mushrooms.
Yeah, she invented microdosing.
I don't think so, though.
She's a real square, actually.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine your mom. I could never imagine your mom doing any drugs ever, by the way. Ever.
Yeah, like, from what I've read.
Some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
No. But it would be wild.
It would be very wild.
Book interrupted.
So a few years back, I cut my hair off, but most of my life I've had long hair, and recently I decided to grow it back. But that is causing all sorts of interruptions because it's like this in-between phase, and sometimes it looks okay, but it's often in my face, and I can kind of do I don't know if you can see a tiny little ponytail, but most of it doesn't go in there. So my interruption is kind of like a vanity one a little bit, but I just don't know what to do with my hair, and I'm not good enough at doing my hair to make it look okay. So I got some headbands here to kind of keep it under my face if I'm doing something, like if I'm driving on a road trip like I am now. Obviously I'm not driving, I'm sitting here, but I was driving the other day. And I put it up like this. So this interruption is brought to you by the in-between stage of growing out your hair.
Book interrupted.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah. So
tell me.
I didn't read it as a kid. I only read it as an adult when I got a series, a box set of Roald Dahl for Mattie when she was little. So me and the kids have read almost tons of Roald Dahl. I think the box set had 10 books or something.
Nice.
So I read it years ago with the kids, and I reread it this time for the show to the kids, and I hate reading it out loud. I forgot how much I hate reading it out loud because the giant doesn't speak properly.
No, he doesn't. That part is frustrating.
It's so frustrating to read out loud, and I had forgotten. So I was like, I'll read this to you at night, kids. And
gibbly goobly gops to bops, and then you're just like, I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, and so he's saying things and meaning other things. So then the kids are like, what is that? And then I'll have to explain to them that it's not a real word, that he just made it up. And what he actually means is this. So it stops me from reading, which I also dislike. I like to read to the kids without being stopped 20 times over words. And then on top of that, I eventually, by halfway through, just started reading them the book and just making the words what they're supposed to be for the giant. I know what he's trying to say, so I'm going to say the correct words so we can just move on from that. So I didn't, that
it's a bit of a process.
I think if I just read it, it would have been fine. Because just like Kim was saying before in the Hunger Games, with all the weird names, you just kind of skim over them and move on. But if you're reading aloud, you can't. You have to say all these crazy things. So I did not enjoy reading it out loud at all. I was like, this fucking book. I was so annoyed because the kids were like, are we gonna read the book again tonight? I'm like
great,
sure.
Yeah. Can't wait.
I'd love to. But it's interesting that I was wondering why this specific Roald Dahl book you picked. Because my favorite's Matilda, but there's so many other ones I really enjoy. And I was like, I wonder why this is the one, but it's because of the Orphan. I was like, I don't get it. What is so special about this one compared to all the rest of them?
And I didn't know either. That's the thing. I could have chosen any book within the confines of, what do we say? It has to have a movie. It has to have been made into a movie. So yeah, I don't know. It was only as I started to get back into it. And then I was like, oh, right. I probably loved that period of time when I originally read it. I'm attracted to the archetype of the orphan, but everything you're sharing, isn't that so interesting how reading it quietly to ourselves is a very different experience from reciting a reading in front of others? Because I don't think I already found it when I was reading it to myself. It did interrupt the flow the giant's words, because you just want to keep getting into the story, but you also want to understand meaning. And so you're like sounding out all the jumbled up letters, and you're like, oh yeah, like that interrupted. But I could only imagine how much worse it would have been if I was reciting it to someone.
Yes, reading it out loud was bullshit.
Yeah.
It was just bullshit for
Yeah.
me. And also, like, every time he said right or left, I eventually just stopped the left. I was like, right? Because it's like the kids are like, what do they mean by right and left? And also because my kids are bilingual. So they're like, what do they mean by right and left?
And you're like,
he
no,
means
no, it
nothing.
doesn't actually
It's
mean...
just nonsense.
Yes.
Nonsense talking.
There we go. Anyways,
so
I just found it tedious to read all those words. Like it just required like some major mental like focus on like, how do you even say this word that doesn't exist? And but the thing that was good about it, I was trying to think of like the positive or whatever. Fred seemed to enjoy it and used funny words moving forward afterwards. Like he's like, oh, what a snalls honker or whatever. Like he did like it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about it. So she like gets picked up by a giant and then goes back to Giant Land, hangs out there for oh, fuck's sake. The tech rage is real.
Oh, it actually ignites, like, to be serious, I actually like full stress response sometimes. Like I'll be like sweating in my armpits, like heart palpitations. And I'm like, I think I'm having a stress response.
Yeah, I'm definitely having a rage response.
Yeah. I
clear people out.
Like, I'm like, once I start with, if the kids are like, can you fix my tablet or get this thing on? I'm like, once I start, I have to be like, everyone needs to leave me immediately because I'm so enraged. And Mama will be like, I think we need to leave your mom.
Oh, my word finally opened. It only took 75 minutes. Isn't that fucking convenient? Hey, Kara, making things so much faster.
So much faster.
I'm choosing a blank document now, so I'll be back in a half an hour when that one opens.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, I think that you should just do it for this moment, Sarah. Oh, it's open, but I'm closing it because I don't want to overload the poor little computer.
Yeah.
No, it's trying to do a Zoom and an audio.
What?
Yeah, just close it. That's fine. I got this. I got it.
You know, it's getting bad. Someone's internal rage is getting bad when the sarcasm starts to like.
I just feel like it's personal. Like I literally feel like my computer is gaslighting me. It does shit that people are like, what? That doesn't happen. And I'm like, it happened to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And then everyone thinks that I'm like crazy and like I'm not the most computer savvy, but I'm also not computer illiterate either. And my computer does shit that like they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I tell people about it and people think I'm computer crazy, like some old lady that just doesn't know how things work. But really it's like, no, my computer literally changed its font size for no reason. I opened an email and all of a sudden it was 48.
I know. But whenever you try to raise that with people, they look at you as if you're geriatric and you're one of those people that doesn't have big enough letters on your cell phone that you have to bring it into Best Buy and get the part-timer to help you. And you're like, no, I have some competency. I swear I do.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so funny.
Anyway, back to the BFG. So you don't remember the ending, huh?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you want us to tell you?
Of course, yes. I don't like surprises in life. I like to be well prepared for things.
How far do you remember? Do you remember him meeting the queen?
Yes.
You remember the plan they had so they could meet the queen?
No.
Okay, so they planned to give the queen a dream.
Oh, yeah.
Dream
about the giants.
About the giants. And
the bad ones.
The bad ones. And how they eat little kids. And they did it after they knew the giants were going to England to snatch kids from a boarding school. So they made it that dream that these 9 giants and ate these children from England from this boarding school. And then made it that Sophie was sitting, a little girl named Sophie would be sitting on her windowsill. And then she would introduce her to the big friendly giant. And then when the queen woke up from her nightmare, Sophie was on the windowsill and she was like, maybe my dream is real. And then she introduced her to the big friendly giant, and then they confirmed that the kids had been eaten or disappeared.
Yes.
And then they did whatever.
They made a plan.
They made the plan. And then they went and got the giants from the giant country. In the movie, they made it a different how they got them. In the book, they just got there while they're sleeping and tied all their arms and then carried them off and put them in a giant pit.
With helicopters, I think.
Yeah, with helicopters. And in the movie, they gave them bad dreams to feel bad about what they do.
Oh.
Yeah, in the movie, they make it so they have, the giants are feeling guilty. They have a dream about feeling guilty about eating people and that they'll never be redeemed. And then when they wake up, they're kind of groggy and feeling sorry, like feeling bad about themselves. And that's why they're able to tie them up and conquer them, because they're not at their strength, because they're mentally sad.
Kind of discombobulated. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they drop them off at their own private island and then give them seeds to grow snoz cumbers. Yeah. But in the book, they just throw snoz cumbers every day into the pit.
Into the hole. Oh, it's dumb. Like so Roald Dahl, who is the only, like, the thing that's good about him is that he does like a little bit dark stuff, right? Like the giants are eating kids, and like whatever, right? But it's still like fun. And so I don't like that the movie changed, because I thought you were going to say, because I didn't finish the movie because I'm not into it. And so neither is Fred. I'm not going to watch the movie by myself, that one anyway. So like I don't think even we made it to England. Like we were just in the giant's house while she was like checking it out, right? And then I thought you were going to say, Sarah, that they felt bad and then they changed their ways and everybody was big friendly giants. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Hollywood. Well, none of it is. They felt bad and then they were able to be tied. Like, why change it? Why not just?
Why?
It was probably easier to film. Well, did they still fly them with helicopters to the island?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't understand why they would change it to them feeling bad. Like, just get them.
I have no idea. Just get them.
They wanted to introduce some sort of like moral consequence or something. But I like Roald Dahl's take in that some people aren't going to have those reflections. So get on with it.
Yeah, throw them in a hole.
Throw them in a hole and give them those stupid, gross.
And then like, people visit them like a tourist attraction. And then in the movie also, which was different than the book, when they go to the palace, in the book, the big friendly giant asks if they have that fizzy drink that he likes to drink that makes you fart. And they don't. She's like, she doesn't, in the book, she's like, no, she doesn't know about it. He's like, oh, but I could, basically saying he could, I can't remember what he calls farting, like fuzz.
Yeah, it's something, whatever. Yes.
He's like, oh, but I could do that. And she's like, do not do that. She does not want to hear that. And Queen's like, oh, he wants to sing. He wants music. And she's like, no, he doesn't want, he's not talking about music. And she's like, no, don't do it. And he's like, I could do one without the pop, basically. And she's like, no. And then he like farts loudly. That's what happens in the book. And everyone's like, oh.
Wow. Thank
you. But in the movie, they make it that he brings that pop with him and then shares it with everyone, and the Queen farts, which I kind of like more. But Sophie doesn't even care that he's giving them all pop to fart. Which in the book, she's mortified. Like, don't.
Fizz Whizzers.
Fizz Whizzers.
Yes,
Fizz Whizzers.
That's what it is. Yeah. Do you know what's interesting is sometimes when I would struggle reading, like how the giant speaks, I would ask my husband for help. Bob is an interesting giant translator. He didn't struggle with the reading of the giant's words, the interpretation or meaning, not once. And I was like, that's interesting.
He like literally speaks it.
I know, he was like, oh yes, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I really started to enjoy the book more when I finally switched over to audio, because I was getting worried that I wasn't going to finish the book in time, which I still haven't finished the book, but it's been way more enjoyable because the voice actor does not struggle with sounding out those words. So there's no interruption in flow. It's a really nice constructed storyline. Yeah.
I also like, because that was what the movie was good for, right? Because then you can just see the giant's talking his own words, and it's like, now I can just watch this and listen to him babble on, whatever.
That's what I thought too. Like, that was better for me than reading it aloud to my children. But I had the same problem with the movie. So I got the movie like a month ago or something, thinking we'll have a movie night, and then if we're gonna have a movie night, I'm gonna buy a movie. I'm gonna buy this one because I have to watch it anyway. So I got it, and the kids like watched half, and then they didn't want to watch it anymore. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, that's kind of annoying because I have to watch this movie. So last night I finished the movie by myself.
I'm gonna have to do that because the kids don't care. They're not interested.
I almost did it, but I was like, I have to know if it's the same as the book. And it isn't. Like, the end of the movie isn't the same as the book at all. So I was kind of glad I did that. But I think it's because the beginning is too slow and boring. The book they enjoy, and like Kim, my kids love listening to the book. Like, they really liked me reading the book to them, and they thought it was silly, and they liked asking about the crazy words, even though I was really annoyed. And by the end of it, I like I said before, by the end of it, I was just saying what the giant actually meant, because I get annoyed. Like, I don't want this bedtime to last for like an hour for one chapter, because I'm explaining everything he's saying, being like, it's nothing. It means nothing.
Let's move on.
Not even a word. Let's move on. It's horrible.
Oh my gosh.
But they love that, but they did not like that movie. And I thought that I liked the actor that played the giant. I think he did a good job and stuff, but I think it's too boring for kids, and I don't see adults wanting to watch a kids movie.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't watch a kids movie on my own. Like, there's kids movies I've watched that I think are funny and I enjoy while I'm watching it with my kids.
Emperor's New Groove.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
Wall-E? Yeah. I would watch Wall-E 1 million times. Love it. Oh, I just adore it.
I'm trying to think that I'd watch. Well, we love all the Kung Fu Pandas. I'll watch that with the kids like a million times. Love
For sure.
Kung Fu Panda. Love it. But
again, we know that the writers or the actors are going to be targeting that adult level audience as well as the kids. Whereas with BFG, we're like, nope.
It was just telling that story.
Content for
I also like another movie I will watch with the kids that I really liked is the original Matilda movie. It is a really good movie.
It is actually.
Yes.
And that's Roald Dahl, right?
Yes. And that's my favorite
Witches.
Roald Dahl book. The best one, I think. Yeah.
Matilda is just perfect.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't I choose Matilda?
Because she wasn't an orphan.
You had a happy memory attached to your BFG.
And she wasn't a moron. She wasn't
an orphan. She wasn't a moron.
She wasn't an orphan. She wasn't an orphan. And that's why. That makes me feel like I was wondering, because there's so many other Roald Dahl books I think are much better.
Yeah.
Totally. It took me forever to be like, why was my mouth chiming off? Like, it's almost like the mouth made the selection of the book before the rest of me was like, why did I go with that? You know?
Maybe you were like, oh, I know that it's a movie. Like, you just were
I love that.
But I know that Matilda and the witches are, but I think it must have been, as I was getting into the book, all of it started to come back, and I was like, oh, it was the orphan idea for sure. I'm so sorry that my psyche was like, come into this boring read that's gonna stump you with weird words.
It makes for good conversation, right?
There you go.
If we all loved it, it might be a boring conversation.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? We need a little bit of conflict among our experiences.
Yeah.
And you were asking, did you like Annie? Is Annie one of the books you liked, Kara?
Or a movie or play? Annie, because she's an orphan.
Oh my gosh. Watched it I don't even think you understand. Like
a million times, like Wally.
And over. And then I would perform it for the family. Nice. And I would play all the different characters. Like it was a bit much.
What about Pete's Dragon?
Oh, yeah.
I did. There wasn't as much of a hook, but I do remember it and I did watch it. But
that was like my favorite kid movie.
Really?
Yeah, I loved Pete's Dragon.
Me too.
And then they remade it and I was so excited. And it's like,
and it's
dark and different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think The Last Unicorn, I think that was one of my most favorite.
Sad movie.
It's a sad, there's something wrong with me though.
Movie.
Like there's something about,
oh my God, something goes
Sarah.
into the sea and it's so sad. Is it the bull? Is there a bull?
Oh my God, Sarah, you have to be in a good, make sure things are going well in your life.
No, I'm out already.
It, Sarah. It's like a childhood trauma movie.
Like, it is a childhood trauma movie.
Like Neverending Story when that horse dies.
I was just gonna say that there's this new like little meme going through, or little reel going through Instagram about Gen Xers, and they're like, the reason we're so tough or whatever is because our childhood movies, and they showed all the clips of horrible things, and one of them was a horse dying, and it's like, this is our childhood movies. Like,
this was our go-to. So true.
True. That was so, I would be so traumatized every time we'd watch that movie. I'd be like, no.
I know, and yet we would watch it again.
Can we fast forward it? Don't give up.
I think that's important though. Don't give up. Get out of the mud.
Get out of the mud. Like I'm getting teary-eyed. Like we can't even talk. It's so sad.
For sure for The Last Unicorn. Like it's the same.
Devastating. Yes. Like I recommend it, but I also am like, maybe you shouldn't watch it.
Just watch out.
Yeah.
Watch it and watch out.
There you go.
If you've enjoyed these video highlights, listen to the full episode on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified when new episodes are published. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com.
Never forget, every child matters.